All right, cost control. Why is it important for us to control our costs in the restaurant? What's the first letter of your name? C. Carlos? No. That's your dad? Sorry. Remind me. Caleb. Sorry, Caleb. Okay. They don't want, yeah, we don't want to lose money. We don't want that money just going out the window or down in the trash. Good. Why else do we want to control our costs? Josie.
Make a profit.
Good. Our cost affects our profit. Okay. What was that formula for profit or loss? What is profit or loss equals sales or revenue minus expenses or our cost, right? So if we can keep our expenses low, then that means we're taking less out of that sales and revenue number, which means our profit is going to be higher, okay? So we're going to identify how our costs affect our profit. You all as future food service managers, whether you're in a restaurant, whether you're in a hotel that has a food and beverage outlet, really these concepts are applicable to really any kind of business as far as controlling cost, but you as a manager have a role in that. What is typically tied to your success in managing costs as a manager?
Employees.
So your employees, how effective you are, so you're reducing waste. So if you as a manager, if you're able to talk to your employees and teach them how to reduce waste, what do you get at the end of the year?
Bonus.
A bonus. And so if you're not effective in controlling your costs, that can affect or impact your bonus at the end of the year. So your manager's role is to manage it effectively. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Different types of costs that are incurred, and then also why we control our prime costs. So this we've kind of touched on already. The relationship between our costs and our profitability is the lower our costs are, the more profit we get. So remember, profit or loss equals revenue minus expenses. Revenue minus expenses. What is the number one rule for subtraction that you've learned since you were 2 years old? Bigger number goes first, right? Not in the application of this real world. I can't just be like, oh, my expenses were $20,000 and my sales were $10,000, so I profited $10,000 because math tells me 20 minus 10 is 10. It's not how this works, okay? Your business will not be very effective. So in real world applications, you have to follow revenue minus expenses, okay? Because if you don't, you're going to not have accurate numbers, okay? So if our expenses, we keep them low, then that means our profit will increase if we can keep our expenses low. What you want to be careful with, though, as a manager, is that you don't want to keep your costs so low that it affects your quality. Okay? How many of you have ever been to Fred's Fish Fry? Anybody? How many of you have never heard of Fred's Fish Fry? Oh my gosh, you gotta go. It's decent. I don't know if decent is the right word to use. It is. It's fried frozen seafood, right? So you go to H-E-B and buy a package of frozen shrimp and you fry it. It's the same thing you're gonna get, right? But it's inexpensive. It's very inexpensive. I went one time because they had an amazing Fiesta medal, and they were out by the time I got there. But I was like, well, I'm here, I might as well order a fish, and they were the square fish patties. I know, don't wrinkle your nose at me, don't judge me. The tartar sauce helped a little bit. So, I'm just kidding. Actually, yeah, it did help a little. But when I was there, like somebody ordered the chicken sandwich. They ordered one chicken sandwich. The lady's like, okay, that'd be $1.08. I'm like, wait, what? Like, where did I see that on the menu? Where did I miss that dollar chicken sandwich? And how can you do a chicken sandwich for $1? And put tartar sauce on it? Well, first of all, why would you put tartar sauce on a chicken sandwich? That's another discussion. But I had already ordered my seafood platter, so I didn't want to eat more food. And so, of course, I had to go back a second time to investigate this chicken sandwich. And it was that chicken compressed patty that you get like in elementary school, the cafeteria lunch, right? For $1. Now, if I was strapped for money, I could go eat 2 chicken sandwiches for $2. That's actually a pretty good deal. It's food in my stomach. Is it great quality food? No, not really. But the fact that that chicken patty probably cost them 15 cents is the reason why they can sell it for $1. Their facilities, their restaurants, although they're clean enough to pass a health inspection, they're not like pristine, they're not pristine conditions. And so they're not in the Pearl Brewery. Their rent is not super high, okay, and their lease. And so all those things kind of come together. We're going to talk about controlling our expenses, but we don't want to keep them so low that we sacrifice our quality. Okay, we still want to offer a quality product. I'm going to pause it right here for a moment. Paula is here to talk about the Math Bridge program. All right, so now, as a manager, how many of y'all work in food service right now? Okay, where do y'all work?
BJ's.
BJ's. Oh, of course, Alamo Dome. Pluckers. Okay, how's that fried chicken? Is it good?
It's pretty decent, yeah.
Yeah, I've never eaten there. I've seen it, but I've never eaten it.
If you like wings and stuff, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah?
Like a lot of.
Is it fried chicken or like wings?
So they have wings and then like, of course, we have like tenders and steaks.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. I'm gonna check it out sometime. Where else?
Oh, I work in a bakery.
Okay, excellent. You else over here? Oh, I saw some hands. Daniel?
We're in a restaurant, Bistro 9 in Elmo Heights.
Oh, y'all are doing restaurant week this week.
Yeah.
Ooh, how's the menu?
I haven't worked this week because of school.
Ah, gotcha.
I just told them like take me off the schedule this week.
Okay.
I go Saturday, so I'll see how it is.
Okay, yeah, I think y'all go through next week too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay, sorry, tangent. Let's go back to what our manager's responsibility is. Okay, so manager's responsibility. I'll say those of y'all who work in the industry, are you at a supervisor level, or are you more at an entry level, kind of a lead trainer or a lead position? Say it again.
I'm entry level.
Entry level. Okay, cool. So how many is an entry level? Like, what are some things that your manager does that you're like, I don't understand why you're having me do this? Anything ever kind of crossed your mind? Like, why? How do I know that I'm supposed to prep 500 wings instead of 750 wings?
That's always been a question. So they'll have us like on a Friday, they're like, you're going to need to do 30 trays in the next 2 hours.
Yeah. Like, why? How do you know that? Well, we know that because of our past experiences. Okay. When I worked at Chester's Hamburgers, the manager would come to me in the morning and they'd look in the fridge for the fries that were left over overnight. They put them in water. They keep them covered in water so they don't brown up. And they look at that and they're like, oh, okay, that's about 40 pounds. And today I need you to cut 200 pounds of French fries, 200 pounds of potatoes. Okay. As an 18-year-old, I had no idea how they were like, okay, 250 pounds. Sunday is like, okay, it's Friday, it's Saturday, 400 pounds of potatoes. How do you know this? Well, it's your responsibility as a manager to understand what levels we need to get to so that we can operate, okay? It's your responsibility to train your team members to understand the importance of why we don't overserve French fries, that why the French fries are a specific size, why they get 3 pickles on a burger and not just however many pickles you feel like, okay? Why is it that we have to put 3 pickles on a hamburger? We're going to control that cost. So remember that the example we used last class was the pasta, the chicken pasta?
Yeah.
Everything has a cost to it. And using our triangle tells us what we need to sell it at to make sure we cover our food cost percent, make sure our cost percentage is staying low. And so that's why we need to train that. If we just say put 3 pickles on a hamburger because I said so, so many people are rebellious, or like, I'm going to do the opposite just because you said, because I said so. I'm going to do the opposite of what you said. But if you explain to them, you know, we only order a certain number of, I don't know, buckets of pickles. I don't know. Let's get off pickles. We only order a certain number of freshly baked buns for our hamburgers. We have an artisan burger. And if we waste a whole burger, well, that's one less burger that we can sell. And so we order a specific amount of product for the level that we're expecting. And if we waste it, or if we serve more, then we're going to run out. Okay? Excuse me. So here we go. In the interest of time, we serve an average of 165 meals a day. We're open 360 days a year. If this manager wants to decrease their cost by 15 cents, that's a nickel and a dime. Okay? 15 cents, is that a whole lot of money? No. But times 165 meals per day, times 360 days a year, that's almost $9,000. Remember, what's our relationship between our cost and our profit? Yeah, if we keep our expenses low, what happens to our profit? It goes up. If I can decrease my cost by 15 cents per meal per day, that's almost $9,000. Well, let's take it one step further. Let's add 10 more cents to that. Just by adding 10 cents, that's almost $15,000 that we can save. A quarter per and that's not like taking 25 cents off the cost of a meal. Think about this as an overall cost. So this is food expenses. This could be the labor to serve it. So if we're monitoring our labor budget, right? If it's slow, what do? Got to start cutting people, not physically, but we let them go home. Okay, we got to cut people. They got to go home. I don't want you sitting there doing nothing. And if you are sitting there doing nothing, you got some side work to do. What is side work? Cleaning, dusting.
Restocking.
You got time to lean, you got time to clean. Absolutely. Okay? And so a lot of people, you know, they see that and their manager's like, go dust this booth. Oh, it's not part of my job. I'm a server. I'm not supposed to take orders and serve people food. I'm not supposed to be here to dust. Well, no, that is part of your job. That's part of your side work, okay? And so a lot of times people see that as a manager as being mean or a manager as being cruel, but that's not true. You're getting paid by them. Now, of course, they can't ask you to do anything illegal or anything that is outside of your job description, okay? Of course, we have employment laws. Sorry, I don't mean that went dark real quick. But you're getting paid. You're on the job. You're on the clock. So if they need you to go and fold napkins and roll silverware, guess what? You go and fold silverware and fold napkins. That's how simple it is. Because I'm paying you. You're here at work. If you don't want to work, then go home. I don't have to pay you then. Sorry, that got like real. Let's make it happy again. Whew. I don't know where that came from. All right, types of costs. Fixed cost. What does that sound like? Leslie, what does a fixed cost sound like? Like what does that, what do you think that means?
Like fixing it to a point where they can make profit out of it, but it's not like
Not quite. Help her out. It doesn't change. It's fixed, okay? It's a fixed rate. So what's an example of something that does not change in the short term?
What you order.
Your rent. Okay, your rent definitely is something that is a fixed cost, your rent, your lease on your building.
Electricity. It's somewhat.
Okay, so your electricity, so this is like semi-variable cost. We're gonna talk about utilities there because, you know,
Package.
if it's hot outside, your AC is running. And if it's cold outside, your heater's running. But if it's perfect weather, which it never is, then you have a very low utility cost, right? So those do fluctuate a little bit. So those are kind of variable, but then sometimes it can almost always be fixed, right? So these are things that are never gonna change from month to month. So the loan, baby, the loan on our business. Okay, what else?
Maintenance.
So you might have regular maintenance like pest control, or you might actually have a cleaning service that comes in. I know at Cheesecake Factory, you know, we would do our thing, but then like every night or every other night they'd come in and they'd do a deep clean, a deep dust, they'd pull everything out, and there was a cleaning service that was contracted to do that. So any kind of contracted services, absolutely. They're probably, if they're contracted, that means you probably have a certain commitment. So I can't just say, oh, next week I don't want to do that. Okay, so think about that. Last one I'm thinking of real quick, it has to do with labor. Who gets paid? Who gets paid on a fixed? The salaries, okay? So salaries are fixed. It doesn't matter if we have 10 people walk through our door, if we have 10,000 people walk through our door. Our manager gets paid the same. Our salaried employees get paid the same. Does not matter. Okay. Variable costs. They change in accordance to our business level. So if we're really slow, our variable cost should be slow. Should be low. If we're really busy, our variable cost should be high. Okay. Yes, sir.
It also works for like seasonal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You'll definitely see seasonal trends in your business level. But as each month, as we're looking at specifically our costs and our expenses, these are things that you'll see here. So let's look at these charts for a moment. Maybe this might help make a little bit more sense. So these fixed costs right here, they don't change. This gray line right here, it stays flat, while our sales are going up and going down. Okay, but over here, this gray line, they mirror each other. You see how that works? So as we get busier, we need to spend more money on labor, on our servers, on our cooks, on our hosts and hostesses. We need to spend more money on our ingredients in order to produce the food. But as soon as it starts dropping, that's when we start cutting people. Go home, I don't need you. Okay? How many of you have ever heard your manager say, I'm out of labor money, my labor budget's spent.
Yeah.
I have no more money in my budget. That means that during the month, they are budgeted a certain dollar amount in labor, in wages. And once they reach that, they either have to send everybody home and work on a skeleton crew, or they have to justify why they are going over their budget. Okay? If their sales are way over budget, that's a good justification. My sales were way over budget, so that's why my costs were over budget. It took me more costs to produce the food that I thought we produced more food than I thought we were going to. So that's a good justification. If your sales are low and you're over your labor budget, there's no justification for that. That's called mismanagement, absolutely, okay? So variable costs change in direct proportion. Okay, in direct proportion. Wages. Wages are examples of variable costs. Those are your hourly employees. Okay. Semi-variable have aspects of both. So when you put salaries and wages together, that's where you get semi-variable. You get labor. Labor combines both wages and salary. That's the overall term for everybody getting paid. Okay, your workforce. The two most controllable, food and beverage and labor. I can control that. I can't control my rent. That labor looks really awful. Good thing there's audio along with it. Food and beverage and labor. Non-controllable costs are these fixed costs. They're not controllable. That's why we want to focus on our prime cost. Our prime cost is food, beverage, and labor. Okay? That's what's known as our prime cost. Food and beverage, typically you're looking at a 30 to 33%. 30 to 33% is your average. If we can be lower, that's great. And now think about this. This is a big picture. This is average for everything. And we're going to talk about why we can't apply 30% food cost to a soda or beverage cost to a soda and 30% food cost to a steak. Because it's not equal. The cost of the ingredients are significantly different. We're going to talk about that in the next chapter. Okay? Your labor is 30 to 35%. 30 to 35% is your labor. So, if let's say we take the maximum, 33 plus 35 is 68%. 68%, which means essentially 68 cents of every dollar is covering just our food and beverage and our labor. Does that mean that our profit is 32%? No. We haven't factored in our rent, our utilities, our insurance, any of that. We haven't factored in any of that. Okay? So if we can decrease our percentage by 1%, if we can take this down to 67%, that's a decrease of 1%. What is 1% of a dollar? 1 penny. Okay? So, we talk about, Paula was talking about abstract math and practical math. Abstract math is it's down 1%. Well, what does that 1% mean?
Depending on what your profit is.
Right? So that's 1% is 1 penny. Is 1 penny a whole lot? No. But if your sales are $1 million for the year, that's $10,000. That penny. So to be able to drop it by 1%, if you're able to drop it down 2%, that's $20,000. That's where these percentages make a huge difference. Okay.
It's adding on to what you already making.
Exactly. It's usually primarily going directly to your profit because your sales are the same. The sales is the same dollar amount. If you can decrease your cost by 1%, then if your sales were $1 million, you're saving $10,000. That's going directly to your profit. That could be the difference of being able to redo your dining room, getting new furniture for your dining room chairs, maybe putting up a new neon sign or a new signage outside to attract even more guests to come to your. So you see, that's how this cost is so. Prime cost is a percentage of total sales. What's the number at the top of this income statement? Sales. Okay, I know it's kind of small. I apologize. This is in your book. Sales is always 100%. Sales is at the top. Always, always, always. Always at the top. Because we subtract everything else from it. Okay? So you see here, our sales are $98,442. Is this $63,317? That's our cost, right? That's our total cost of our labor and our food. So $98,442 minus $63,317 is $35,125. Is that our profit?
That's everything total in there, right?
This is our food cost and our labor. Is that 35,000 our profit? No, where's our rent? Where's our expenses? All of that stuff comes out of that 35,000 to where we get down to our profit. Okay? How many of y'all ever heard the phrase, they're just focused on the bottom line? They're focused on the bottom line. What does that mean? They're focused on that profit. Profit's the bottom line. Sales is the top line. Profit's the bottom line. They're focused on that profit. If they're not making a profit, they don't get a bonus.
Is that the one you staying in the black? Trying to stay in the black.
Yeah, you want to stay in the black. Absolutely. You don't want to be in the red. Red is a loss. Did we talk about Black Friday in this class? Okay, I blew the minds of my other class. Y'all know why Black Friday is called Black Friday, right?
I think so, because the companies have been in the red all year, and that brings us back to.
They sell so much money, they sell so much profit or so much product on Black Friday, that at least the terminology was back then. I don't know if it's still accurate today. I think it's just a gimmick, but they're in the red all year long, and that one day they sell so much product that it puts them back up into the black. That's why it's called Black Friday. Yeah. So the control process. First, we have to develop our performance standards. Okay? First, we have to decide what is our standard. What is our standard size for a hamburger? How many pickles go on our hamburger? How much lettuce? How many tomatoes? Okay, to be consistent. Okay, so that first step is to develop a standard that we can follow, we can teach, and people can follow. So that when we go, the guests come, they always get the same experience. Okay, when they come visit, they always get the same experience. TGI Fridays, I was one of my first jobs waiting tables, and I was a culinary student at the same time. We were talking about plate decoration or plate presentation, and their specifications, or the industry kind of shortens it, calls it spec, right? So it's specifications. The dessert spec was awful. It looked so ugly, right? But it looked so ugly because anybody could do it. That made it easy enough that the average server could just make it real quick and take the dessert out. But I thought, no, I can make it look so much prettier. That's what I do. I'm a culinary student. I'm an expert now. I was also 19 years old. Okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. And so I was doing the plate, and my manager's like, David, that's not spec. That does not look like the way it needs to look. I was like, no, but the other way it looks so boring. And I'm a culinary student. She was like, you got to do it to spec. And then the next day, because I like to push the boundaries, she's like, David, that's not spec. She's like, you're using too much ingredients. I'm like, no, actually, I'm using less ingredients. Rather than rip the thing off the big fudge packet and just do this massive glob of fudge, I'd poke a little tiny hole with a toothpick and squeeze it on there so it was all squiggly. And I do the caramel, and rather than use the whole packet, I'd use half the packet of caramel. I was like, no, I'm actually using less ingredients. And she's like, okay, I'll let you do that as long as you explain to people that they're going to get it a different way if they come and see somebody else. They have a different server. That's the reason why we have specs, is so that it looks same, it's the same, and like Victor said, it's consistent. The guest is going to get the same thing every single time. Well, that's when I learned the importance of personal branding. I was like, hi, my name's David. Here's this dessert. I'm in culinary school. I'm making an instant connection with these people. But if you want to get it like this, you got to come back and see me. Nobody else is going to do it the same way. I was like, yes, Desserts by David is born. And so I learned that lesson. Now, she could have said, no, David, do it to spec. And of course, eventually I would have either quit or I would have done it to spec, right? Those were my options. But if you ask my mom, I like to push the envelope a little bit. So we have quality standards and quantity standards. So how many shrimp go in our shrimp Alfredo? How many is a quantity standard, okay? If I put 3 shrimp in my shrimp Alfredo, that's a quantity. That's a number. It's a count. Quality is a descriptor of that item, okay? So how do we order shrimp? By the pounds, right? Or we order it. Seafood is typically ordered like by size, right? And so that's a bad example. Let's move on. Hold on. Let's go back to bell peppers, okay? And reset. Okay, bell peppers. If I'm doing bell peppers, and my recipe calls for red bell peppers, can I substitute green bell peppers? Depends on the recipe, but probably not. Two completely different flavor profiles, right? If I'm making fajitas, can I substitute green for red? Yeah, I can probably do that.
No, there's green.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we want to know what those standards are so that we can follow those recipes. Okay, so quality is something about a product, an item. So who can give me an example of a quality standard? Well, hey, Victor, give me any ingredient that we work with in the kitchen. Just the ingredient. Lettuce. Okay, so lettuce is our ingredient. Who can give me a quality standard for lettuce? Iceberg lettuce. What else? Romaine lettuce. Organic. Okay, so all these things are quality. Quantity would be that your salad has 4 ounces of lettuce. Okay, that number makes it a quantity. Or I order it by a case of 12 heads of lettuce. My order is the quantity of 12. Does that make sense? Quality versus quantity. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Just in our last semester, right, in Chef Chris' class, she had us actually make a salad. Everybody make one.
Yeah.
Okay, we all made it, and then she's like, I'm gonna show you how the salad you made, you probably would have got $2 for it. But I'm gonna show you how the same ingredients you put on the plate, which I can make salad for $10.
Yeah.
Just by rearranging it and placing it. You know, where you place it on the plate. I mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that would be the performance standard goes to talk about the ingredients, but then also how you actually prepare it as well. So that quality is, this is how you prepare the salad. The quantity is that there's 2 ounces of lettuce, there's an ounce of tomatoes, there's half an ounce of bacon bits. Those are the quantities of how you compose that salad. Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. And then as a manager, you have to monitor the actual performance. Okay? You have to monitor what actually is happening. Do those salads that go out, are they actually looking the way they need to look? You can't monitor by actual performance by sitting in your office doing nothing. Okay? With your feet up on the desk. Now, I'm not saying that every time your manager goes into their office, they have their feet up on the desk. They're probably working on something, hopefully, fingers crossed. But you need to monitor that actual performance. If I prepared 50 steaks, right, my prep cook, I said, hey, Omar, prepare 50 steaks for me today. And then into the night, I look at my computer, and I sold 45 steaks. How many steaks should I have left in the kitchen? Is that hard math? No. I should have 5 steaks. And then I go back to the kitchen and I physically count it. I actually monitor the performance. And I find out I have 3 steaks. What's my problem?
You're missing some.
I'm missing 2 steaks. Oh yeah, I forgot. Sally didn't ask for the meat temperature. We had to recook it. So that's 1 steak. So now, after you actually monitor it, then you actually have to follow up and figure out how to solve that problem. Okay? One of my biggest problems as a server was I would forget to ask people how they wanted their steak cooked. I worked at Fridays, right? They didn't order steak a lot. They didn't order steak often. If I was at a steakhouse, of course, I'd get that really quickly. But they didn't order steak very often. And so I'm at my computer and I'm looking at them and I'm like, they look like a medium. Or they look like a medium well or medium rare. And then turns out like, no, I really don't want any pink. And so I need that this steak needs to be recooked. Okay? So that can be coaching. It's not always the kitchen's fault. Okay? It's not always the kitchen's fault. Now it could be that David doesn't know how to cook a steak medium rare, and there needs to be coaching on the kitchen side, that the server actually put it in correctly, and there needs to be some coaching on the kitchen side. There's a whole bunch of different myriad of options, but that's your responsibility as a manager to think critically and figure out where is the problem, and then how do you solve it, okay? Hey, David, I noticed that this is your 4th time this week comping a steak because you forget to ask the temperature. 1, here's a novel idea. why don't you go tell them that you made a mistake and ask them what their temperature they want? How hard is that? Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I forgot to ask you how you wanted your steak prepared. Of course, we don't want to admit that we've made mistakes. We don't want to be embarrassed. We think people are going to get mad at us and it's going to affect our tip. But guess what's going to affect our tip? Getting their steak wrong. Not going back and taking 2 seconds and say, you know, I'm so sorry, I forgot to write down, how did you want your steak prepared? I'll get that right in for you, okay? Or what the actual result was, my manager, Kristen, helped me. In my little notebook, there was a big old neon index card. Steak temperatures. And so every time I write it, I'm like, oh yeah, you just said steak. Okay, yeah, what's your temperature? Okay? And then eventually it gets to be second nature and I can just go ahead and ask the question, okay? But it takes that coaching, it takes that active interaction with your team members. It doesn't say sitting back in the back office and then when they come in to check out, oh my gosh, you had 3 more miss rings tonight. Here's a write-up. No, you gotta work with, there's gotta be some kind of coaching. Now, if there's no progression with the coaching, then we have an issue. Okay, but you can't just be like, oh, you screwed up tonight. This is the first time. Boom, you're fired. That's not how it works. Okay. So now we compare our actual performance to our performance indicators, as we kind of just talked about. That's that difference. Okay, that variance is a difference a little bit later, and now we address those discrepancies. Hey, Jeff, why do we have 2 steaks missing? Oh yeah, David had a re-ring, and Sally came to me and was like, hey, I need a steak on the fly. Does anybody not know what on the fly means? Well, I need it right now. I needed it yesterday, okay? Sally's like, I need a steak on the fly. Meaning I probably forgot to ring in their order, and they've been waiting for 30 minutes, and I just remembered that they haven't rung their order in yet. I'll get it in. I'll ring it in just a minute. Just start it right now. Okay, what's the issue with that? She may never ring it in. And you've put a steak up there. She takes a steak to her friend. Sally's really dishonest, by the way. She takes a steak to her friend. And now that steak is gone. Nobody pays for it. So the rule is, if you're doing addressing performance discrepancies, the rule is no meat without a ticket. No, what's that? No ticket, no taco. No, it's not going to happen. No ticket, no taco. Okay? Because that's how we track everything. And so it's your responsibility as a manager to address those things when they come up. Okay? So corrective action. If our food cost is too high and we want to reduce it, we could reduce the portion size. Maybe we notice that people are leaving too much food on their plates and we're throwing a lot of food away. Or our portions are so big that people are walking out with to-go containers. That to-go container cost me money. If that to-go container cost is not in the cost of your entree, then that's extra money that's going out your window. Did we talk about lemons in this class? No, let's talk about lemons real quick, okay? So lemons, not Victor lemons, but we're gonna talk about lemons, okay? So lemons come with tea, right? Does everybody use their lemon on a tea? No, not really. So I'm gonna do this on the board because I don't have really anywhere to write on this screen and I can't go back. So let's just say for ease of purposes that our lemons cost 36 cents. I know I have 4 minutes, I'm looking at the clock. Okay, we have 36 cents per lemon. How many slices do we get out of a lemon? 8. Let's say 6, right? Because we're going to go with 36. Okay, so 6 slices per lemon. So how much does each slice cost? 6 cents per slice. Okay, if I sell 250 iced teas, and my rule is every glass of iced tea gets a lemon, what are we at? I should do that in my head. $15. Okay? $15. That's not much. But if we're open 365 days a year, that's $5,475 on freaking lemons.
I didn't know I was that expensive.
On lemons. Like, come on. I mean, it's these little things that we can do. Okay, I'm serious. I don't know what's up with me today. So I recorded my lecture from last night. Y'all are welcome to go look at that one because that one was much more lighthearted. And I was not angry like I am right now. I don't know why I'm angry.
Maybe it'll make you feel better to know that at BJ's they don't do lemons unless customers ask for them.
Perfect example at BJ's. Don't put a lemon on there unless a customer asks for it. Okay? So we can save that money. And that money can go somewhere else. Hold on, we got 3 more minutes. Okay? Food waste. We want to monitor our portion control. At Chester's, all the French fries were made to order. Okay? The expediter would say, hey, David, you've got 6 burgers and 3 orders of French fries on this order. Okay? Now, if they said to Rihanna, you've got 6 burgers and 3 orders of French fries, put your hand up. My hand's a little bit bigger than hers. So I can take, they can't just say, oh, an order of French fries is 1 handful. Because if I do 3 handfuls, and she does 3 handfuls, we're going to have different sizes. And so what would happen is, at the end of the order, once the order was prepped and made and sent out, the preps would tell me, hey, David, you were really heavy on that French fry, meaning those were extra French fries, and they had to put into a waste bin. They didn't hold them over to the next order, even though the next order was coming right up. They didn't hold them over, not even 1 order. Went into the waste bin. And at the end of the night, I had to count how many times I filled that waste bin up. That's a dollar amount of money that is being thrown in the trash. My manager's like, whoa, David, you had 4 waste bin fills tonight. That could potentially affect my promotion or my pay increase. Okay, it goes into my file that I had like a corrective action for that. So that is why it's important for us managers to be monitoring that. Okay, one of my biggest things, Jill is a bartender. Anybody else bartend? No? Okay. Anybody go to H-E-B lately? Like the one downtown that has the pizza place? Oh my gosh, their pizza's so good. Best happy, I got like 45 seconds. Best happy hour in downtown, in my opinion. A giant pizza and 2 draft beers for $2. Or sorry, $10. Sorry, $10. For $10. For $10. But they also have wine and other stuff now too. But it used to drive me crazy because the people who were there were trained how to make pizzas. They were not trained how to pull a beer from the draft. And so they're sitting there like this, and there's like, they hold the cup like this, they turn it on, and half the cup is foam.
Oh, yeah.
And then they pour the foam out. And then they do it again, and it's half foam, and they pour the foam out. I'm like, so I just reached over and I was like, this is how you do it. I was like, don't worry, I'm TABC certified. And so I was like, you hold it like this, you pull, and you slowly turn the cup. And I said, look, there's hardly any foam. Every time you pour that foam out, you're pouring product down the drain. If we're not training our team members how to do that and be successful, our product is going to go out the door. Okay? So, that is it. Perfect timing. So I will give you this with all the numbers first thing next class. So we're going to repeat it. If you want one of these to redo and take a blank one, you can take a blank one of these home as well to re-practice.
I'll take one.
I'll leave them right up here. You can come get them.
Where was that sheet of paper that we online?
So let's get to some questions here. Okay, taking corrective action is the first step in the control process. True or false? Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. What do we got? It's the taking corrective action is the first step in the control process. The answer is false. Corrective action is the last step, right? The first step is to set that standard, to set the standard first, then you know what you're comparing everything to. The corrective action, making those corrections, is the very last step. So fixed costs remain the same regardless of sales volume. True or false?
True.
True or false? That is true. Okay? That is true. So remember, this is our graph, okay? Our sales, I'm going to do green for money for sales. Our sales can go like this, but our fixed costs are going to stay the same. They do not change, although it looks like they change. Picture that as a perfectly straight line, okay? They do not change depending on the sales volume. Fixed. Variance is the difference between the actual performance and the projected goals. True or false?
True.
Good, that is true. A manager's role in cost control is to allow employees to do what they think is best.
False.
Good, that is false. So, perfect example, I did when I was at TGI Fridays, I was a student at St. Philip's. I don't know if I told you the story or not. If I did, please stop me. And I created Desserts by David when I was at TGI Fridays. Okay? And so, my manager, Kristen, I was a student and I was learning about plating, and our recipe was 1 fudge pouch, 1 caramel pouch, and some slivered almonds or sliced almonds on the brownie a la mode, right? And so you're supposed to take this, it was basically like a giant pouch, like a ketchup packet of caramel and hot fudge. And you just do like one way with hot fudge, the other way with caramel, and then you sprinkle some sliced or slivered almonds sliced almonds on there and take it out, right? And so I was a student, and I'm like, no, I want to play with this design because I want to practice these plating techniques that I'm learning all about. And so I took the caramel and I like swizzled it like all around the rim of the plate, and I put the chocolate down before I put the brownie in. And so I did all these kind of fun stuff, and I crushed up the almonds and like sprinkled them around the plate and whatever. My manager, Kristen, was like, David, that's not spec. Spec is short for specification. And so at a corporate restaurant like TGI Fridays, you have to follow spec because no matter where they go to a TGI Fridays, anywhere in the world, that brownie is going to have to look the same, that brownie dessert. They have a certain expectation, right? And so Kristen said, that's not spec. You can't do that again. And I was like, okay. So the next brownie came, and I was just like, okay, what can I do? And so I'm like doing it different, right? And she's like, David, I told you cannot do that. She's like, that's not the recipe. And I said, I know, but I'm actually using less than the recipe because I poked like this little tiny hole in the hot fudge and squeezed it out so it was all like swiggly and crinkly instead of like this giant nasty glob of hot fudge, right? And I was like, I'm actually using less ingredients on this. And so she was like, okay, you're using less ingredients, but it's still not spec. And she said, so if you do that, you have to explain to people why it looks that way. So I learned 2 lessons here. My first lesson was I created Desserts by David. My second lesson was to create something unique about yourself to cause people to come back to sit in your section as a server. So I told people, this is Desserts by David. I'm a culinary student at St. Philip's. I'm learning about plating designs. Let me know what you guys think about the design. And by the way, you can only get this if you come sit in my section. Because if you come to somebody else, they have to do it the regular way, right? And so I learned that lesson. Again, Kristen could have, okay, so I'm kind of like, I like to break the mold if you haven't noticed. Kristen could have said, no, David, you have to do spec. You have to do it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? And then I probably would have been like miserable doing my spec, and then I really wouldn't have that joy and passion. And so she allowed me to express myself, but still, as long as you're not spending more on ingredients than what it actually, because the way it looks, made it look like I was spending more on ingredients. And so, but at the same time, she was controlling it. She would monitor it and make sure that I was not just doing whatever I wanted. There were certain things where I did have to follow spec, and I did have to follow the certain way of doing it. Variance is always expressed as a dollar amount, true or false? Good, that is false. It can be counted, the number of steaks. It can be weighed. Okay, so we should have sold 200 pounds of potatoes. When I look at my waste sheet, and there's 10 extra pounds that I wasted throughout the day, so I actually used 210 pounds of potatoes. So I wasted 10 pounds of potatoes. So that variance is not just a dollar amount. It can be in a variety of ways. Oh, sorry. Prime cost includes only food and beverage cost. That is false. What does it include?
Labor.
Labor as well. Costs that change based on the sales, but not in direct proportion.
Semi-variable.
Good, semi-variable, okay? So remember, here we go. So our sales, again, are green. Our semi-variable costs, right here, they might go up and go down a little bit and go up and then go up, but they're not in direct proportion, okay? If I had, let's use blue in this case, my variable costs, if they are truly variable, then they will mirror in direct proportion to our sales, okay? In direct proportion. The profit formula is what? Profit formula. Good. Sales minus expenses. That gives us our profit. Profit or loss. A standard that refers to the raw product or the production method is what? Good. Quality standard. Okay. The quality. So is this steak grilled? Is it broiled? Is this fish baked? Is it sauteed? Is it what? Fried. Okay, good. So that standard that refers to the production method also is a quality standard. Costs that change in direct proportion to sales are good, our variable cost. What's an example of our variable cost? Food cost is one. Wages. Okay, so labor as a whole is a semi-variable because it has salary, which is fixed, and wages, which is variable. So wages are the employees that are paid by the hour. Okay, those were. Rent and insurance typically are examples of what kind of cost? Good, they are non-controllable. We can't control them. Which is the most important cost for a food service manager to control? That is our prime cost. Okay. All right, so that is the end of chapter 1.